My name is Todd Schmink at Aqua Therapies. I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about some of the aspects that come into couples therapy. A lot of times when couples show up here, there's always some type of argument or ongoing issue. And it's what couples tend to want to jump into right away. And this is important. I need to know what's going on and need to get a little bit of history as to what's happening and what it is that you're wanting to work on. But what I found is that a lot of times we're focusing solely on the negative. We're focusing on those things that are driving us crazy with our partner. So one of the things I like to send people home with is homework on the very first visit. And one of my favorite tools is actually the 5-to-1 ratio. So research shows that if a couple is having 5 positive interactions versus 1 negative interaction, if the ratio is 5-to-1, then the couple has a fairly good chance of being able to work their way through that issue. Now, if that issue is something huge like infidelity or a spending habit or drug habits, that's a little bit different. But for the average couple coming in to see me, it's usually little things like he never puts the dishes away, or she's always nagging me, asking me to do X, Y, Z. And there's usually, they both came from completely different families, and so it doesn't quite line up, and it takes a little bit of walking and talking and experimenting to get through that. So the 5-to-1 ratio, like I said, is actually based in research. What's also interesting about that research, though, is that they found that those couples that have lasted the longest, so those people who were able to reach 50 years, there's an interesting little tidbit there. They reported having 12-to-1 in the particular surveys that were done with them. That was 12 positive interactions versus 1 negative interaction. So what does a positive interaction even look like? Well, positives would be maybe there was coffee that was laid out, in the morning. One spouse left the coffee, had a note, coffee's ready, and left. That would be an obvious positive interaction. You come downstairs, you find a cup of coffee, you're happy. Wow, it made me feel great. Or maybe, the other one that people always think about is flowers or a gift out of the blue. For no particular reason, I was just thinking about you and I picked you this up on the way home. But they can be really little things too. They could be good morning, to the person when you actually see them versus two people kind of walking past each other in the hallway, not saying anything. Little tiny things. It could also just be having an arm around her while you're sitting watching television, or an arm around him while you're watching television, or on their leg, or somewhere in their space. It depends. Each couple's different. Some people, they are more affectionate and they touch, and that's great. Some people are not so much like that, and they are completely cordial. They could both be reading books in completely different chairs, but every once in a while they glance up at each other, or they talk to each other, and they talk to each other respectfully, or they say things flat, or they don't get upset. Or maybe in the middle of an argument, one of them says, you know what, maybe we just need to take a moment and come back. Positive, right? The argument itself might be a negative, and you might have that in your mind as a negative, and then you miss that positive interaction at the very end. If you're astute and you're paying attention, you do go, hey, maybe they got a good point. Maybe we just need to take a moment and we can circle back around. Positive interactions, putting the dishes away, making sure the toilet seat is down, cleaning up after yourself, little tiny things. Just saying, wow, you look really good in that whatever it is that they're wearing, or you compliment the latest haircut, or you just say funny, cute, teasing things that make them feel appreciated, wanted. The negatives, I don't think I need to get too heavily into the negatives. Negatives can be anything from name calling to pointing something out that's critical. You always do this, or you always do that, or the sentence starts off with you versus an I statement. Also something that I work a lot with in couples counseling. Reframing the way you say what you say in such a way that doesn't come across as aggressive and therefore put up defenses with the other person. So just keep those things in mind. 5-to-1 is what we're looking for. But the beautiful thing about the 5-to-1 tool as well is that it makes you start to become more aware, mindful. Imagine that. Mindfulness is definitely one of the tools that I utilize inside of my working with individuals, inside of my practice. It helps us to be present right here, right now. So instead of thinking about what that person did or said or left behind in the past, always, and bringing it back constantly into the future over and over and over again, it makes it very difficult. If you imagine that this is that thing from the past, and you and I are now trying to have a conversation, it's in the way, always. It makes it very difficult to have a very open communication. So we want to be able to take this and just set it down for a second. So building the awareness, just utilizing this 5 to 1. And what I'll have couples do is they'll go home and they take little tally notes, so positive. They said hello to me in the morning. They left me coffee. They filled up the gas tank the night before. That would be a pretty big one. They cut the lawn without asking. They took out the garbage. They did the groceries. They so on and so forth. Just anywhere you can put those marks. Then on the other column, they'll have negatives. They were short with me. They were angry. They slammed their fists. Whatever that was that they did, and we just keep track. Both couples will bring that piece back. We can compare. So there's data. I love data. I'm a behavioral therapist before I got into all this, and I've always looked at data. It helps us to guide, to know where it is we're going. What's nice is sometimes you'll come in and you'll be like, oh, our ratio is 7 to 1. Maybe this isn't as big of a deal. We can look at those few hash marks that were in the negative column and ascertain or look at and judge whether those really are going to become a bigger issue in the future. But after doing this exercise, a lot of couples realize, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. Sometimes though, I've got one, it's got 7 to 1, but the other one, theirs is 1 to 2. So they're only seeing 1 positive for every 2 negatives. Then we have, disequilibrium. It's not balanced. So we have to start to figure out why. Why is it that you're seeing it this way? What's making you see it that way? Why do you think it's all roses and you think it's all lemons? So what can we do when it comes to that particular piece? Also, like I said, when you're in the act of doing these marks, you start to become more aware of how you're interacting throughout the week. So you're marking things down and you're having to be present. You have to actually be conscious that this is even happening. And like I said, when we go back to that comparison of her notes and his notes, or his notes and his notes and her, or whatever the combination thereof, is that we want to be able to see where is the breakdown. And this awareness piece goes, oh, I didn't realize. Maybe it is 7 to 1. I never really thought that it was only 1 for every 2 times that I'm coming at her in a particular way or coming at him in a particular way. So we want to keep those particular pieces in mind. It brings it all to the surface, and it makes it very transparent, makes it very clear. There's curiosity. It opens up a new channel, and it helps us to drop defenses. So I invite you, give this a shot. Like I said, it's called the 5 to 1 ratio, or the 5 to 1 tool, as I call it here in the office. And you can try it right now. You can simply have you and your partner write these things down, positive, negative, and then choose, hey, today it's Monday, why don't we try that 5 to 1 thing? Maybe you're not as excited as I am by it, so maybe it's more like, why don't we give this a go? Maybe this will work, I don't know. Just give it a shot and see what happens after a day. Then pick another day, do like a Wednesday, do like a Saturday. So try a weekend, try a weekday, and then you have a little bit of comparison. You need to be open, you need to be present. If you feel emotions boiling up in your body, I talk a lot about and work with couples to become aware of what's happening in their bodies, like the actual physical sensations, so that you can actually curb your tongue and not say things that you wish you wouldn't have later. We all do it. So let's pay attention to those particular things, mark it all down, and lay it all out. You can discuss it with yourself, or you can always schedule an appointment with myself. If you're not in the area, so I'm in Providence on the east side. If you're not in the area, you can reach out to any marriage and family therapist counselor. You can you can just look up couples counseling in your local area and see if you can find somebody. A lot of us use a lot of the same type of tools. Just feel free to reach out, ask them, hey, how would you do this? Are you familiar with this 5 to 1? If not, bring them the tool. I'm sure that they would love to play around with it. Most therapists are very open-minded in trying things that are unique and different, and allow people to explore in a way that's just that doesn't set off our defenses. I hope you enjoyed this point. I hope you get a lot out of this tool, and I hope that whatever you're going through, that you'll get through it with grace and dignity. My name is Todd Schmink. I'm at Aqua Therapies in Providence on the east side of. Give me a ring, drop me a line, and be well.